All right, today we're diving into a really fascinating approach to mental well-being, and it's called resilience mobility therapy. Now, this thing offers a totally new way to think about healing and, personal growth. So let's get right into it.
You know that feeling? The one where you just feel stuck? It's something pretty much all of us have felt at some point. That sense that no matter how hard you push, you're just not getting anywhere.
Sometimes it shows up as just pure burnout. That bone-deep, complete exhaustion, where even thinking about checking your email feels like climbing a mountain.
Or maybe it's less about exhaustion and more like you're on a treadmill. You're putting in all the effort, you're running and running, but when you look around, yep, same old view, no progress.
And for a lot of people, that feeling of being stuck is really about being trapped by the past. It's like old experiences or habits have their hooks in you, and they just won't let go of the present. Well, this exact feeling of stuckness is what resilience mobility therapy is all about tackling.
Okay, so the very first big idea here, and it's a game changer, is that it totally reframes what it even means to get better. The core proposal is simple but super powerful. At its heart, healing is mobility.
So, what is resilience mobility therapy, or RMT? Well, at its core, it's an approach that sees you not as someone things just happen to, but as the active driver of your own life. You're the one in the driver's seat, the co-creator of your own healing journey. It's all built on this incredibly empowering idea that you have the power, the agency, to shape your reality.
And that, right there, leads us to its foundational principle. See, instead of looking at healing as, fixing a broken part, RMT says healing is movement. It's this dynamic, active process of moving away from being stuck, from distress, and moving toward growth and balance and a real sense of well-being.
I love how the source material puts it. It calls it a fluid transition away from states of fixity. And fixity is just a great word for being rigid or frozen or, stuck. The point is, it's not some rigid step-by-step formula. The whole idea is to create flow and that feeling of forward momentum in your life.
And look, this isn't an idea that just came out of nowhere. RMT is actually built on a really solid foundation, pulling in smart insights from all these different areas of psychology. It's truly holistic, meaning it looks at the whole picture, from our biology and our thought patterns, all the way to our social circles and cultural backgrounds.
Okay, so that's the big idea. But how does it actually work? What does this look like in practice? Let's open up the Resilience Toolkit and see what happens in a real session.
First off, the relationship between the client and therapist is totally different here. It's a real partnership. You, the client, are seen as the expert on your own life. You're the co-creator. The therapist's job is more like being a resilience translator. Their role is to help you see and build on the strengths that you already possess.
Okay, now for one of the coolest techniques. It's called resilience cartography, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. Imagine literally drawing a map of your healing journey. It takes this big, abstract idea of change and makes it something you can actually see and hold. So, for instance, you might map out your journey as a river. Those crazy, turbulent rapids? That could be a crisis you went through. The slow, gentle bends in the river? Maybe that was the period where you started to adapt. And that beautiful, clear lake you see up ahead? Well, that represents your future goals. It's amazing how a simple act like this can turn a messy internal journey into something you can actually navigate.
Another really powerful tool in the kit is cultural storytelling. Because our map gets that our personal maps aren't drawn in a vacuum, right? Our identities, our cultures, they're this deep, rich source of strength and meaning that we can tap into.
Get this example, using the metaphor of the baobab tree, which is this incredible symbol of endurance. You'd explore questions like, how do your roots, your family, your culture, anchor you? Or how has your thick trunk, all your past strengths, helped you weather storms? It's just such a beautiful and profound way to connect your own personal story to a much larger cultural identity.
And the therapy isn't just random. It follows a really clear three-phase structure. First, there's engagement. That's all about building trust and figuring out what resources you have. Then comes the middle phase. This is where the real work gets done, using tools like the storytelling and mapping we just talked about. And finally, you have the termination phase, which is all about locking in that progress and creating a solid resilience plan you can take with you.
So when you put it all together, what does this journey actually feel like for the person going through it? Well, the whole point, the ultimate goal, is to shift from just surviving to actually genuinely thriving.
A lot of people start therapy in a state the model calls sustained immediate resilience. Okay, that sounds complicated, but it's really just a name for that stuck feeling. It's what happens when the coping mechanisms that got you through a crisis, working 24/7 or avoiding tough emotions, become your new normal. You just keep doing them and eventually it leads straight to burnout.
So, the therapy guides you along what they call the resilience potential continuum. Think of it as a path. You start at immediate resilience, that's just crisis mode, putting out fires. Then you move into ongoing adaptive resilience, that's coping day to day. But the final destination is strategic resilience, and that's where the magic happens. You're no longer just reacting to life, you are proactively shaping it for your own long-term well-being.
All right, so let's zoom out. Why does any of this matter? What makes this approach such an important new path to healing?
Well, look, RMT can be incredibly helpful for anyone struggling with burnout, depression, anxiety, you name it. But it's especially powerful for survivors of complex trauma or people from marginalized and displaced communities. And that's because it's not a one-size-fits-all model. It's built from the ground up to honor a person's unique identity, their culture, and their lived experience.
And maybe the most crucial part of all is that this is a non-pathologizing approach. What that means is, it doesn't start by trying to figure out what's wrong with you. Instead, the central question is, what has happened to you and what strengths have you already developed to get through it? It's a perspective that's all about affirming your dignity and giving you back that sense of agency. When it comes down to it, resilience mobility therapy offers a real, concrete path forward. It's a roadmap for moving beyond just surviving and into a life that you are actively building, one that feels strategic, meaningful, and genuinely balanced.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. Think about that river map for a second. If you were to sit down and draw your own journey, your own map of resilience, what would it look like?